A very good evening to all our viewers. AAJJA and iDAC with immense pleasure would like to present our fourth webisode of Master Speaks, Decoding Architect Ravi Sarangan, Edifice Consultants Private Limited, in conversation with architect Swapnil Sawant, Worksphere Architects. Our sponsor for today's webisode is AFC Furniture Solutions. I hope this session is informative and motivational. Before we start the session, we would like to present a short AV from AFC Furniture Solutions, and thereafter, Swapnil sir will be taking the lead. Thank you.
I trust this movement finds all my loving AAJJA family in best of health in these challenging times of lockdown due to the COVID-19 pandemic. In continuation to the legacy of our alma mater and Alumni Association of Sir AAJJA College of Architecture, we have invited many legends from the fraternity as master speakers on the forum.
AFC Furniture Solutions, a leading modular furniture manufacturing organization where innovation meets design. We just don't make it different, we are different. The state-of-the-art facility is spread over an area of 4 acres with latest German and Italian machines and has capacity to manufacture 10,000 workstations and 8,000 chairs with the capability to create custom-made furniture in minimum execution time. Considering green manufacturing, it follows all environment-friendly operations and it is first in North India to acquire and implement nanotechnology powder coating setup in its factory. And finally, scalability. With all the manufacturing capability developed in-house, we ensure large order quantities are developed in short span of time, delivering the best for 11 years. AFC has worked with all major corporate brands of the country and has repeat clientele of SMEs and MNCs. We have clients in almost every part of the country. The quality of the work can be well judged by our happy and satisfied customers. In this world, everything is designed. Few things are designed well and some by well-knowns. Equipped with most efficient technology, we follow the most efficient and advanced techniques from board cutting to designing and finishing. We have dedicated CNC setups for desired shape quality output. The edges of the panel are nicely taped with modern through feet edge bending machines. We have CNC drilling machines for drilling and grooving of panels and dedicated hot press machine for laminate pressing. We have technology-driven With well-organized system, we just not make it good, we make it perfect. Not just wooden furniture and chairs, we also take care of metal furniture's needs. High-end laser cut technology gives us the right structure in the right size and with negligible wastage. The output from CNC laser cut machines is then bended perfectly with CNC bending machines. The final output is made to go through latest nanotechnology conveyorized powder coating plant. A huge powder coating plant covering 12,000 square feet is remarkably capable to give the finest finish. AFC takes care of the environment the same way it takes care of its products. We have a special cyclone separators for clean air emissions so that we do not release anything harmful in this beautiful air to breathe. From underground water treatment plant to green belt in its surroundings, we take care of everything within us and around us. We have not just established 11 years of excellence. We have established 11 years of trust with our clients. AFC Furniture Solutions.
Yeah. Hi, Ravi. How are you doing?
Hi, Swapnil. How are you?
Good evening. Lovely audience here. Ravi, a lot of people have come to see you. And I'm sure you have charmed many people in college. A lot of your heartthrobs are around here. And they're seeing this Ravi after a very long time. You know,
Right.
whenever I speak to anybody from the time that you were there in college, the impression about you is that young, charming, ready to take on anything, sitting at the workshop, having all the fun. And when I ask them, oh, वो रवि और ये रवि में तो बहुत फर्क है.
Right.
You know, that's the answer that I get always.
Right.
So I would like to know, what was that Ravi all about while he was there 5 years in college? How was the life that point of time?
So it was fun, no? When we joined architecture, the first thing that we were told at JJ was architecture is an extracurricular activity. There was an aura of charm there. It was nature. It was very Shantiniketanish, right? You had people sitting outside. There were some professors who were taking classes outside the class. And then we saw this workshop and where people assembled near the canteen. And so the entire teaching experience in JJ was, I would say, extremely informal and ought to be continued in future as well. It was not a formal classroom teaching. I thought you learned from not just the professors, you also had access then to the library of books. You had your friends, you had your seniors, you had peers. You learn from all of them, right? And that holistic learning is what makes you as an individual. And there was nothing to unlearn from what we did at JJ. We took forward practically all the lessons that were taught out there. A little bit of architecture, a little bit of design, a little bit of everything, but more importantly, a large dosage of values, human values, a large dosage of, I thought the bonding happened because and mutual respect developed because of ragging, because of getting to know people, getting to know your seniors. There was some sort of a grounding happening. There was some sort of a molding happening. And when you left college, you left with this whole load of memories which still linger on. It's been what? 87 is when I graduated, and it's been what, 13 plus 33 years, and it's there fresh in my mind. That first day in college, the first year in college, the second year in college, the juniors came along, and so on and so forth. So huge dosage of human values, bonding, friendship, team playing skills, above all mutual respect. And the biggest value that you learn was humility at JJ.
Sorry?
Humility.
Humility.
Biggest value, which kind of takes you forward is humility.
That's very interesting. But another thing that I want to ask you, as an architect, you started Edifice, I understand, in 1995. 87 to 95. What exactly was that journey? People know 95 onwards Edifice, but what's your journey between 87 and 1995?
So as always, it was so fashionable to start a practice of your own, right? Those days, I think, Swapnil, you would also appreciate that the minimal training that we got into in an architect's office, you immediately wanted to start something on your own. You made your friends, and luckily I met up Sanjay at that point in time, and Sanjay Srinivasan and myself immediately said that why don't we start something, and things fell into place as soon as we finished our professional practice. I did it at Masters, Sanjay did it at Stoop Consultants, and we took forward those values initial years. So 87 to around 92, we had named our firm as Take 3, and then the name Edifice emerged from an Asterix comic, and where Edifice was this bungling idiot architect. We started off from a kitchen cabinet to an office. We built these values. We always knew that the firm would be a large format firm as opposed to a boutique firm. We dreamt big. Something very, very critical in trying to tell everybody whom I meet, and that's something that is very close to my heart, is always need to think big. Even if you're running a boutique practice, think big. Because when you think big, then you set goals for yourself, you set values for yourself, and you start putting a plan into implementation. When you don't dream big, nothing falls into place. I mean, everything will scare you.
So was it that Ravi, that point of time when he was thinking big, did he make business plans? Did he make presentations that time? Did he had a 5-year plan when he started thinking big?
No. So those were things that we learned along the way. I told you that our foundations were built in JJ. We took it forward into our practice. So 87 to 92 was one period where we did small things here and there. Nobody trusted us with architecture. They always gave us a lot of interior projects. But we learned people skills, we learned values, and we carried it forward till 1992 when Narasimha Rao's government came in and there was liberalization, and we were immediately exposed to these information technology, IT companies, right? And we were there at the right place at the right time. We learned that there was a place for architects to deliver something which is unheard of before. So we entered into that arena where there were these established names, established architects, big names. But we entered and we saw that if we could crack this, it was a kind of it was like a conundrum, a puzzle. If we could crack this in record time, deliver a project in quick time using processes and systems that we evolved internally, I think we had a market for ourselves, because these Infosys, this TCS, this Cognizant Technologies, they all needed space as of yesterday, because they were seeing India of a different nature, right? And we worked very hard those days. I mean, I think we knew that if we were to grow and we had dreamt big already, right? We needed to kind of deliver on these projects. So we learned a lot of these systems, very symbiotic relationship with your client. Right, while the client is sitting on your head, you also learn how, they're also holding your hand. We are working on this together. I've always maintained that design is a dialogue. It's never a monologue. Every architect feels that design is in my mind. I need to put forth this. I need to dictate this to the client, and I need to build. Then you will get there are these rare entities like Zaha Hadid and Frank Gehry who can do that. But not all of us are born Zaha Hadids or Frank Gehry's. We also have our own ways. And we always, the name we chose as Edifice and not Ravi Sanjay Architects was for this primary reason. We wanted diversity in design in our firm. We did not want, the two of us, to leave a stamp behind. We knew we had to get this collective process, collective design typologies. And therefore, we decided to kind of set this in motion. So a lot of things were learned from the clients, not necessarily our own inventions.
So it's basically in the era of matured practices, you came up with a trend-setting practice, which was an efficiency-driven practice initially, where you were more efficient than all the people at that point of time, who were little laid back, those typical architectural firms who would have no quick response time, and you cast on it and kept that as your positioning. Am I right?
True, very true. Swapnil, I think what we got onto the table was not just this collective efficiencies, as I would call it, but we were building a team. We were probably the outliers at that point in time, in the sense that we always knew that you need talent to build an organization. You need people to build an organization. Right from the early 90s, we invested in people, we invested in talent. We never waited for a project to happen. We came across a good candidate, we used to grab him or her and, you know, and train them to become leaders in quick time. So what happened was these people then started kind of getting belonging to Edifice, and our skills were getting developed, and therefore our turnaround time was much quicker. But what we also did differently was we got in processes and systems, things which were unheard of in the past. So we always said that we should be Italians in the way we design and Germans in the way we implement projects.
Well,
so these processes and systems help you in kind of, we were delivering projects in quick time, and we also expanded to other cities. Very critical. When you are graduating from a startup to a firm, and you need to have de-risking strategies. So if I had stuck on to Mumbai and maybe Bangalore, geographically, we were risking ourselves, because if these two markets were to plummet, then you can never grow as a big firm. So we took our chances. We went to Hyderabad, we established our own office. We went to Calcutta, we went to Chennai, we went to Bangalore. Wherever the information technology boom took us, we established our own offices there.
But let me ask you one question. Looking at you, many other firms started aping the same thing which Edifice did, including myself. You were the kind of a role model who strongly believed in wealth creation and design leadership.
Right.
But everybody could not succeed.
Right.
I do not know why. I mean, even I tried going to multiple places, but identifying a great talent sitting in Mumbai, to identify a talent in Chennai, or to identify a talent in Bangalore or Hyderabad or Calcutta was the most difficult thing that most of the people failed. So how did you manage, reaching to a place, identifying a talent and establishing yourself?
So we did things differently. So you talked about wealth creation, right? Now, this is very, very critical. Right since 1995, when I wrote a letter to Mr. Narayan Murthy and told him that we are a small firm, we work out of Mumbai, and we'd like to work with you. We carry the same values. We are high on integrity, because these are few things that, honesty, integrity and all were in our DNA. And I kind of, wrote this letter with a lot of passion, and you won't believe it. These were not email days. These were like hardcore letter writing days. I got a response in 7 days time saying that, we're in Bombay, we'd like to come and see your office. It was a garage 16 feet by 9 feet at Collector Colony. But we were not ashamed. We had an office. We wanted to show, yes, you could come and see our space. But instead, he didn't have the time. They saw some of our projects done. They were convinced, and we took that forward. Now, these are, values that you carry forward, get imprinted in your DNA. And once you start doing Infosys and Wipro, that kind of follows to the rest of the other clients in the same manner. The values start from the top. The minute you have values imprinted, the minute you have a kind of a code, the rest will follow. So it starts from the top. So if you walk the talk, if you are practicing what you preach, you will find that the team that you build will adhere to it. The minute I slip, you will find that the team is also slipping. Now, identifying talent, we didn't do it the way other firms did. I went to Chennai, spent about a year in Chennai. Sanjay went to Bangalore. He spent a year in Bangalore. He built the team around that. There were people like you are aware of Manoj Chaudhary and Sachin Bhatt and all my fellow directors. They all spent time in different locations. So Manoj then later went to Bangalore, and he came back to Bombay. Then Sachin went to Hyderabad. Similarly, we had Sandeep Agarwal at Calcutta. So we had our own team going to these places, spending time there, leading being the captain of the ship there, building a team around that, then coming back. So we had this rotation. A lot of people like to travel, right? Swapnil, you and me have traveled so much in our early years of our career, and we used to take pride in doing projects in 4 corners of the country, right? So that urge should be there. We had personally gone to these places and identified, because identification is not an easy task. Getting talent is not an easy task. But we spent a lot of time I personally look into every biodata which comes into Edifice. I personally look into it. Whether it's a draftsman, designer, or an interior designer or an urban planner, I look into it. So that's the importance that we give to our own people in the form of recruitment, lowest attrition rate. We share our wealth. 1995, when Narayan Murthy heard that I'm sharing my wealth with some of my team members, he was astounded. Unka stock, they had yet to become a public limited company at that point of time. I think they had just become public. So he was surprised to see that there is an architect's practice which is sharing our wealth. Even today, we share our wealth with around 22% of the company in numbers. In various proportions. I think when you have this transparency and so every individual in Edifice, for instance, whether it's a draftsman or a designer, knows the turnover of the company, the profit of the company, the expenditure of the company. They know which project, what fee we have quoted at what price, and that's the level of transparency we have in Edifice. I think when you have all these, then there is a sense of belonging. There is a sense of collective purpose, right? And that's what takes.
So talking about this collective purpose, I find it a big challenge many times to ask any of my employee to go and settle in Calcutta or Mumbai or Chennai or anywhere. I'm sure all your team members would have been driven by a vision, a common vision which was there. And the skill of the leader is in terms of communicating that vision. And many a time vision is sometimes become just a piece of paper, which is nicely written and framed. I want to hear from you. Is there a formula of convincing the vision?
I think Swapnil, very, very good question, because it is relevant for all of us, right? I think what we did differently, as I said, we walked the talk. We went ahead and set up. So when you won't believe it, from the collector colony, 19 feet by 7 feet, 6 feet by 19 feet garage. When me and Sanjay were at Chennai and Bangalore respectively, the team in my Mumbai office, we had already bought an office by then in 1996. We had bought our first row house, which was accommodating about 35 people. That's the slide that talked about from 5 to 35, right? 5 people were in that garage. And we were not even there for the shift or the inauguration of this office. We continued to stay in Chennai, and Sanjay was continuing to stay with his family in Bangalore. So the team got the shift done into a new office in Mumbai. And because we walked the talk, we said that, boss, look, you have to look beyond. And therefore, when you do that, you will find that like-minded people come along. And I'm not saying that all the time we succeed, right? But those early days, I think there was a collective fire in the belly. And it's very tough to get similar people in these current times, because the millennials think differently. They're not here to think. There's no word called permanence in their minds, right? Whereas we were coming from a frugal India. Our parents taught us to save money. Our parents taught us to save energy. Every single bit was about frugality and existence, right? Luxuries came in much later.
Now, another.
So sorry, the vision part.
Yeah.
Coming back to that, I think over time, it's never a static document, right? There are these principles on which the firm firmly believes in, and then these values keep on getting reinforced. And today we have, I'll probably show you that document where we finally have a purpose, a vision document, where even a youngster who joins the organization is clearly aware as to what this firm's vision and goals are, which evolved over time. For instance, in 2002 to 2007, we grew at such a frenetic pace, we actually lost control over the firm. Me and Sanjay didn't even know where the revenues were coming in, and it was brilliant growth. There were merchant bankers approaching us, VCs were approaching us. They had valued us at 200 crores. That's when RSP's valuation happened later on with the same merchant banker.
He's also valued at the same
time. Around the same time. So those were heady days, right? And I'm so happy that the Lehman Brothers collapse happened, 2007 to 2009.
Very happy.
Very happy, because I think we were almost selling off 25% of our stake to someone who would imagine, if you have sold 25% stake, he would be sitting on the board and he would question every act of yours Post that, this was 2007, 2008 was when the collapse happened. Imagine him sitting on our board and looking over our shoulder and telling us to take on projects to just remain profitable. No. So this gave us time to introspect. Very critical, Swapnil, that all of us know that business is cyclical. And again, this was a second outlier movement for us, as opposed to all other firms which will cut down on everything the minute there is a dip in the economy. We actually engaged one of the big fours to do a complete introspection we engaged Deloitte to do a study of our firm in terms of accounting, in terms of operations. We engaged another firm company to do our HR systems completely, because that's the time when you can do a complete revamp of the system. I think at some point in time, you had asked me that from a 300-man outfit, you came back to 200. And why did you do that? So all these, because we didn't know. I'm telling you, the left hand didn't know what the right hand was doing. When we began our practice, one person used to do 4 tasks. And now in 2008, I saw 4 persons were doing 1 task. So we had become bloated, we had become so heavy. So these interventions helped us to become lean, to kind of become mean. And therefore, it was a good time for us. This resulted in Edifice version 2. So 2009, we realized that if we had to grow as a firm, we have to reinvent ourselves, complete repackaged ourselves. And that's where I think version 2 happened.
Now, coming back, tell me one something which really hit you hard when Deloitte came in, because a lot of these companies, I have also experienced many times, they learn from you and then tell you, what to do. But if you ask them to do themselves, they won't know how to do it.
Fantastic question, Swapnil. So we had a model, and another thing which is plaguing our industry is we don't share lessons, right?
Yeah.
If you were to come and ask me, or Venkatraman from Bangalore asked me, or some third person asked me, some of my competitors asked me, I am more than happy to really share very, very so-called confidential data the way we run our company. Okay, so we had a model where, like an advertising agency, introduced around the 2003-2004 time, where the design studio would be separate from the client interface. So the design studio, the group head, would report to a client interface. We used to call him or her a PIC, project in charge, who would deal with the client, who would, the account manager. In advertising field, they are known as account manager. The design team would never meet the client. The account manager, the single point of contact was this account manager. He would come back and tell the internal client that this is what needs to be done, that is what needs to be done, which helped us actually grow from 2002 to 2007. But what it resulted in was a huge debacle, because the design team was never in touch with the client. They always found that the concept jo evolve kiya tha and what was being constructed, there was a big gap, because the PIC wanted to do jobs in a hurry. Or client bolta tha, you know what, you change this, you change, yes. Bell Jessa used to not come back. He used to tell the internal. So we knew this was wrong. Deloitte told us this is wrong. So,
that's what.
Not to take anything away from Deloitte, I think you need a third eye. You need someone, and they didn't do a save as job. They did a thorough job of complete investigation. But at times you need someone to tell you, because a service industry or a practice such as ours, and where the owners are people at the top, nobody kind of questions your acts, right? So you need a third person to come in and put systems in place. So to be honest, they tell you we could have done this introspection ourselves, but I don't think we would have had the guts to change a system and come back to the original system.
Now, you have seen the entire change which was happening from 1995 to 2002 to 2007 and 2015. Now, has Ravi's role in Edifice changed over a period of years?
Yeah. So from that fun-loving guy in college to a fun-loving guy in the early years of our practice to a fun-loving guy today too. I don't think for me, I think I have remained, your core remains the same. You don't change, right? make as many friends as possible, and that's something that I've always valued. Our profession screams for respecting a human being. For me, everything and anything ends with what can I do better for the human being, and how can I create these. As I'm responsible for 200 individuals, they are my ambassadors, they are Edifice's ambassadors. If they can create another 200 good human beings out of them, I think you have done your job as a.
What I'm trying to bring in is from a technocrat to a manager, to a mentor, right, to a visionary.
Right. So good. I'm glad you asked this question. At 2007 period, me and Sanjay had almost thought of retirement. Okay, we thought that we should be playing golf every day, and we have built a great firm, 200 crore valuation. But then when the dip happened, we both have now got back to design, and it's such a great pleasure now to get back to what you were doing before. And both of us are handling projects now. Although we don't do deep dive. So we started off as design managers. We went ahead and became project managers. We went ahead and became leaders. We created new leaders, and then these new leaders, delegation key. So we have a unsaid word in Edifice saying that the sooner you make yourself redundant, the better it would be. That means I need to make space for the next guy to come to my position. That's the way I grow to the next level.
Yes. So it's basically take all the work from your boss, so that either your boss moves up or he moves out of the company. So the
very
space
good.
becomes empty.
First class. That's the way it is. Correct.
Am I right?
Right. That's right. That's right.
Now, when you talk about talent, most of the architectural firms, generally lose out on talent the moment the talent becomes good to deliver. And Edifice has been able to retain their talent and has been able to manage the performance very well. Now, what's your key to maintaining talent and managing the performance?
So I think first and foremost, it starts with the right kind of delegation, right kind of training programs within Edifice. I think we found it very difficult when there is a lateral shift at a senior level within Edifice. We've always found homegrown leaders to be much better than lateral shifts. What has happened over the years is that we lay a lot of emphasis on training, internal training. So once we have got your technical skills and soft skills training in place, and it's not some robust program at all, you learn on the project and you learn over time. Looking at your leaders, you imbibe qualities. It's like Ekalavya and Dronacharya, right? But just by looking at the way your leaders are performing, I think you can imbibe qualities, and that's what we've been good at. What we've also been good at is right on day one, when a person joins, we tell him or her that at Edifice, with the end of one project cycle, whether 3 years for an architectural project or 1 year for an interior design project, we'll make you a person of some standing, right? If you can live up to that expectation, another one project, that is in 6 years' time, you can start your own practice. We will train you to that level, right? Or in 2 years' time for an interior designer, you can start something on your own. We will teach you. If you keep your eyes and ears open within Edifice, you will grow to that level. So most of them, and there are some great Edificians who are now running a practice of their own. Sandeep is there, Kishore Panikar is there, Nashwin is there. These are good big names in the industry today who have started on their own. And we take pride. They don't need an access control card to come to my office. They can walk in anytime. They may be competitors. Some of them are my competitors also. But it's a proud moment for us that we have created individuals who are. So basically, I think robust training program, robust living by practicing what you preach. And the third part is wealth creation and wealth sharing. Me and Sanjay could have kept all the wealth for ourselves, but even today, I think we own about 70% of the company, and 30% is owned by the rest in Edifice. So
now, when you're talking about training, most of the firms traditionally are boutique firms in architecture. Right. Now, as a boutique firm, it's practically impossible to train anybody or bring a trainer inside, because there is not so much of a crowd into an organization. And with the kind of fees that we have been getting, and earning before tax is barely 8 to 10%, out of which that money is always in the TDS. how is it that some firm could manage training? Because the cost of the training today is not.
I think so. Swapnil, I think the trick version 2, the biggest thing that changed. I think you had one question earlier. I think the 3 Ps, right? And we somehow missed that question. But the 3 Ps for us, yeah, correct. So for us, this version 2 of Edifice, when we decided that it's all going to be design, focus towards design. No longer quantity, it was all about quality, adherence to fundamentals of architecture, go back to the drawing board, see where we were going wrong. The serious introspection led to a system in place which was all about focus towards design, build on competency, focus towards the environment, and win awards. The minute you do that, we managed to increase our fee year on year. From 2010 to 15, we managed it by about 5 to 6% year on year. We had the guts to refuse some of the clients. We saw a lot of our clients in the interior segment vanish because we started commanding a higher fee. We said no to free presentations for a long, long time. We said that we will abide by it, and therefore the project managers thought, oh, these guys have become big. They don't want to do presentations. They don't want to do this. But we started assigning some value to our profession, right? It's very critical. And that was the time, you remember, I reached out to the entire fraternity about 6-7 years back. I said, all of us architects, we don't need to form a cartel, but we tend to meet one another only when there is a vendor-sponsored event. Why can't we meet on our own? Why can't we discuss few things which are plaguing our profession? It's a very fragmented industry. So I started increasing my fee. And today, year on year, I make it a point to increase it by 10 to 12% or even up to 30% in some cases. Because I think we have...
That's very interesting.
Yeah, and I think it's high time that we all know to value ourselves, value our services, value our time. If you are going to be giving high salaries to your people, and what we did was we have data of what the top firms in India pay as salaries, and we managed to peg in the top 15% band that we will pay the same kind of salaries. But interestingly, we want a fixed and a variable. So fixed will take care of your EMIs and your costs, and the variable is where you put in your effort to gain money out of that.
So you work on a profit center basis for all your
locations? And not locations, it's on verticals. But at the same time, there's no internal competition within Edifice. For instance, today the real estate market may be low, but my corporate architecture vertical may do very well. Or tomorrow, my developer market may be very low, but my hospitality vertical, we have 7 verticals in Edifice. So each of this is a specialized zone, vertical, design competency wise. But in terms of wealth sharing, some verticals may do well, some verticals may not do well. No, we don't distribute it equally. For performance, you get a higher return on your performance. But at the same time, we take care of those verticals because the economy may be doing well at that point in time. So I think the trick is to increase your fees, Swapnil. There is no other solution to this. You have to work hard.
I was wondering, in inflation, it is only our fees that does not increase.
Absolutely.
Everything else will increase.
Absolutely. And we have to wake up and see the light at the end of the tunnel. We have to, and that light at the end of the tunnel, look at firms like Talati, Pantaki, ZZ, Zubin and all. They're commanding a high fee. Our role model today is not an HOK or an SOM or a Charles Correa. Our role model today is, at least to survive, is Talati Pantaki. I think we need to kind of have a queue outside our office.
I'll ask you one question. If someday architects decide to go on strike, all the architects collectively, okay, will it make a difference to industry?
So my first fear in that is you and me will go on strike. There'll be 10 others. It's the Indian crab. 10 other guys will immediately surreptitiously behind your back continue to sell the architect.
I think everybody comes together. Presume everybody comes together.
So yes. So Swapnil, look at the Chartered Accountants Association of India. They've ensured that there is a minimal number of chartered accountants produced every year because they want to give value to that profession. Unfortunately, we are such a fragmented industry We are a fragmented lot. Look at the Israeli Council of Architecture. Look at the Singaporean ones. They are well knit. They have given so much value to that profession. We are a noble profession, right? We are taking care of a basic necessity in life, right? So I am looking at that day when we all go on a collective strike to give value to that profession. Yes, it is imperative, because I am telling you, there will be a huge loss in terms of a basic necessity, a caretaker for a basic necessity, a sculptor for a basic necessity. So I think we need to give back this value. We need to ensure that there is quality in what we are delivering. Very, very critical. We shouldn't be giving substandard stuff to our clients. We need to be giving quality every time and every time.
So Ravi, we have heard quite a bit about you. You know, all your friends out here are very keen to actually see Ravi as an architect. So I would like you to, any project that is close to your heart or anything that you want to show professionally, because people are very keen to see something. So I would request you to pick up one project of yours and present it right now, and then we'll continue the discussion.
Sure. Thanks. I would like to present a new project that we are working on. This was a competition that we won. This is the corporate headquarters for one of India's best companies. I think we were so lucky to have worked with some of the biggest and the best companies in India, right, from every sector. So we worked with the Infosys and CTS, and one of our biggest clients is the Tata Group, Tata Consultancy Services, to Tata Motors, to Tata Chemicals, and Taj Group of Hotels. We have a large, almost all the big hotels which are coming from the Taj stable is being done by us currently. But if there is one company which stands out as an Indian multinational, it's Asian Paints. And let me take you through this journey, how we evolved. This is the pitch that we made to the client, and they loved this. And this is what is getting built. And it's a proud moment when your initial concept itself is taken forward right up to GFC. So let me present our first pitch to Asian Paints to you. I'm going to show you one project, which is the corporate headquarters of Asian Paints. I talked about our education. I talked about the way the firm grew, and this is the result of it. And what we are delivering for Asian Paints. This building is just about commencing on its execution. This is at Wakola, Mumbai. Asian Paints wanted to consolidate all their rented offices to one location. Typical as in any corporate office, they wanted a workspace, a training center, cafeteria, an executive floor, and a set of service apartments as well. So as in any other project, we did a complete detailed site analysis. This belonged to Mumbai, the land of opportunities. Zeroing in on the site, this is very close to the airport as well as very close to the Western Express Highway. The site is just opposite Grand Hyatt at Kalina. And then we did a pedestrian analysis. Where is the public transport node? What is the immediate edges? So you had Kalpataru Synergy on one side and Inspire on one side, and then you had the Grand Hyatt on the opposite side. They have an already existing office. This is the old site of Asian Paints, which you see on the right. They bought this new site of Asian Paints. There was a level difference. If you see, there is a 4-meter level difference between the southern part, which is here, to the northern part. What we then identified are the site images. We took immediately photographs of the place. What is important is you study the code immediately. There is a 56.9 height restriction. You needed to keep 30-meter distance as the fire escapes were defined. Also, what we needed to do was determine the setbacks and leave the 6-meter fire tender movement. Then we also evolved the parking norms. So we followed all the BMC norms. What was the SWOT? We finished with the SWOT analysis of the site. The strengths were, there was easy connectivity. It was a corner site. There was public transport easily available, proximity to the airport. Weakness was of course, because it was east-west site orientation. So we had the longer sides of the rectangle facing the east and west. Threats were the heavy traffic and air pollution and noise pollution as in any other city. Opportunities was that we wanted to showcase almost a net zero building out here, but we couldn't achieve it because of the renewable energy limitations that we had. But yes, this building is going to be extremely energy efficient, but not net zero. Like in any other project, we do a detailed climate analysis. We also do the sun path, and you determine also the wind movements so that you can exploit both harness natural daylight as well as exploit the wind movement. So we had plenty of areas out here which were non-air conditioned and had cross ventilation as well. Our design philosophy is simple. As I mentioned earlier, we start off with sustainability because that's critical. We also do a deep dive analysis on the life cycle cost of the project and not the capital cost of the project. Obviously, you need to optimize on capital cost, but it's imperative that you do a life cycle cost. That means what is my running cost for the project. We also, when you design an office, it should be future proof and flexible because you don't know what, for instance, today's time, right? Corona, and suddenly you're talking about increasing the distance between workstations, etc. So your flow plate should enable this flexibility. And then finally, when it comes to design, you need to have a strategy which is all about scale, collaboration, comfort, and enjoyment. And finally, as I mentioned, how can I achieve net zero? First, I need to reduce my demand, and then I need to determine the right technologies to take this forward. So we were going in for solar PVs, we were going in for radiant cooling out here, we were harnessing natural daylight, and then you optimize your architectural orientation so that you have minimum heat gain into the space. So coming back to the design evolution, the site is surrounded by 3 roads, which are on the south, west, and north. And then this was the existing office, and then we had 2 existing green pockets on the north and south. So what we did was immediately we decided to connect these 2 greens, create a courtyard, which is traditional Indian design, and that would be in the empty plot would be my phase 1 building. And then I'm going to show you the further slides. Then I will knock off the existing Asian Paints building and build the second building, and then connect the 2 by means of bridges. And then I have a wrap roof, which finally connects the building at the upper level. Now I'm going to show you the massing strategy in an isometric. So that was the existing, and if you see the north orientation has changed this time, please make note of that. And therefore, this was the existing Asian Paints building. That was the existing 2 existing green pockets. And then we decided to have the amenity space to be handed over to the BMC closer to the southern green. So we dug the 3rd basement. Then we had the grid of 13.4 by 8.4 meters so that you get efficient parking. We determined the positions of the 3 service cores. And then you had the 2nd basement, the 1st basement, the ground floor. The tower flow plate was determined. You had the double height reception, the admin office, and then the tower would come up with the services on the terrace, the top floor being the executive floor. And then all the collaborative spaces, we will have it in the central courtyard, which I mentioned before. Those were kind of non-air conditioned spaces. Then you have a dynamic wrap. Similarly, on this side, you built your column grid, your second basement, 1st basement. Then you determine your circulation. You get your flow plate, phase 2 tower. The training areas and the guest house were taken on the bottom 2 floors. So whenever you're designing a corporate space, your bottom levels are always public and your upper levels are all private. So in this case too, the ground and 1st and 2nd were all public spaces, which meant your training areas, your reception, your business center where you meet your visitors, and cafeteria. And then the rest were all office floors. And then you had the connecting bridges, which were interesting forms, which were connecting the 2. And then we had a completion of the dynamic wrap on the east side. What it did was then we had the wrap with the roof of the solar structure. Very simple. The way I'm explaining to you is architecture is all about common sense. And I think when you show this build up to your client, the client is also in sync with you. It understands the planning process completely. What we did now, you remember I told you 2 facades were facing the west and east, very large, long facades. So we needed to determine how we are going to control the heat gain and light gain and glare gain. So we kind of articulated it in this manner. So we determined the true north. We did the skin articulation. We had this rhomboid panel coming out, and that's how the facade stagger happens. And what you see is only the northern side of this articulated facade is clear glazing. The rest are all fritted or dead end glazing. What it gave us an opportunity is to have a facade strategy with the Asian Paints color spectra, and you have these varying colors over the time of the day. So you're going to see different colors. Coming back to the plan, I'm not going to take too much time on this, but this was the ground floor plan, which had the reception on one side, the business center and training on the other side. The reception obviously was a double height reception volume. The first floor we had, we had some service apartments. We had the cafeteria on one side. The cafeteria again came on the upper side of the gymnasium. This was my typical floor. You see these bridges, they were crisscrossing at various levels. And then we had the third basement floor, second basement floor, first basement floor plan. And that's how the scheme evolved. Here you're seeing in the isometric that where there are three basements, there is a central courtyard, there is a dynamic facade which happens on the east and west, and you had the solar roof on the top. What it did was it gave us a great opportunity to celebrate that open courtyard which had the wind moving through it, connecting the two greens, and all these collaborative pockets happened in the central courtyard. So that's the view from the west side. So the first image that you're getting from it's a stunning building. You have clear glazing on the north and south because you don't need to really worry about north glazing, and you get great light with very little heat. You already are seeing the solar panel roof on the top, the articulated facade on the west. You see the inner courtyard with all these green balconies jutting in. And that's the view from the Pipeline Road. This is the southern view. Again, clear glazing on this side. On the southern facade, typically you need a large overhang since we are living in the northern hemisphere. And that's the front-on view from the north side. That's where you're seeing the double-height reception on one side, and there is another double-height reception on the other side. You see the bridges which are happening, connecting the two floor plates, an internal view of the bridge. So we deliberately did not take the bridge one on top of the other. We took one bridge which was crisscrossing at a point, and the alternate floor was crisscrossing at another point, third level at crisscross. The bridge was air-conditioned at one level and open on the other level. So you see there is an air-conditioned bridge which serves as even a collaborative space. We could put, it was wide enough to put, tables and chairs as well. And the top portion was open to the elements. Of course, we had a roof on top which had the solar panels. And that's your entrance view from the backside. So the rear entrance where the staff would enter, that's your view from the backside. This is how you would enter. You'd see the bridges with the connection bridges. That's the ramp going into the basement. So it's clear that we had worked out everything. That's the view from on top of the bridge. So this is where you get connected from one floor plate to the other. Some more connecting bridges. That's your drop-off lobby. We had a nice, subtle, large water body out here. And then you enter into this courtyard, and then you enter the building. So you are entering into a great welcoming space. Those are the balconies which overlook. These are all meeting pockets and across every floor which opens into this courtyard. And then finally, this is the view that you would get from Grand Hyatt of the building, showing the main entrance, how porous it is, how we are connecting the two greens. Now you will see that a lot of these collaborative areas are non-air conditioned. That's how you reduce your demand. And as I mentioned earlier, this entire building is radiant cooled. Therefore, 1 ton of air conditioning cools about close to around 650 square feet of space out here. So it's very low on energy consumption. And obviously, in terms of signages, etc., we have to determine from the highway, from various points as to where the AP logo should appear. And approach from the north side road. So immediately you're seeing it, reading it as a jewel box, shining element. And it goes on to show what Asian Paints is all about. That's the solar cells that you see from the top. View from the west, and an aerial view of the site. And from the highway, this is how you're going to see the building. Thank you.
Swapnil sir, you can switch on your camera. Ravi sir, your camera is off. You can switch it on.
Where is a sign for that? I'm trying to hunt for it. Where is your camera? Here. Got it. Turn video on. Got it. Can you all see me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Yeah, Karishma. I've logged in. I've done both. I've done both. I've done both. Can you see my video? Okay, done. Bye. Hi, Swapnil. Can you hear me? You can hear me, right? No? Mhm.
Swapnil sir, you are on mute.
Y'all can hear me? You can hear me, right?
You are audible.
Okay, done. Perfect.
You can start, sir.
I can't hear Swapnil. I think he's on mute. Nope, I can't hear you. I think Swapnil, you're on mute, I think. So started.
Hello. Yeah, I can't. Again, something is wrong. Yeah. Okay, I'm again logged out. I'm again logging in now. Now I'll press on the video. Okay. Can you hear now? But I can't hear anything. I can't hear. Ravi?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Of course I can.
Okay.
Yes, I can.
Sure.
So go on, Swapnil. I think there were some questions to be asked.
Yes, let me just give me a minute. So are we live right now?
Yes, we are, I think.
Okay, there are a lot of interesting questions which have come. There's one question from Sonia Podar. Very interesting. In an architecture practice, people always talk about their success. Very rarely people talk about the failures. So today people want to hear from you, what is it that an architectural practice should not do apart from lowering their fees?
Right. I think very good question, Sonia. I think if you were to spend some time in Edifice, you'll realize that we talk more about our failures than our success. I think that's an ingrained habit within Edifice that we need to, keep our feet on ground, keep your ears open for criticism, keep your eyes open for identifying your own mistakes. If you do all of these, I think you're constantly improving. So learn from your mistakes. To err is human, right? But as a cliche goes, that don't make the same mistake the second time around. You're an idiot. So what we did was we identify each and every mistake that we committed on a project, whether at design stage or execution stage, and it goes back into the system. It takes some time for old habits to die, but yes, I think you should never be ashamed of your mistakes. Admit them. Don't try to gloss over them. Don't try to hide your mistakes. Admit it. And tell your client that you made a blunder, and 9 out of 10 times he or she is willing to walk with you. If you try to hide it, that's when it's messy. The second point is lowering your fees. Never do that. I think we've done that. I'm not saying that we've not lowered our fees. It's I would be telling a lie. But over time, as I mentioned during my presentation as well, and my question and answer session, you need to evolve, improve, get quality up, get design thinking up, invest in the right talent, invest in the right people. And once you start focusing towards design, once you start focusing towards giving that unique solution to your client, that's when you will find that your errors are minimized, your concentration levels are high, and you can command a higher fee for having delivered a good product there. So it's imperative that you do that.
So what you're trying to say, Ravi, you document your mistakes.
Yes.
And never repeat them.
Correct. That's true.
Now, another question which is very interesting, Irana Egbote is again a very good friend.
Yes.
He's asking, is Edifice planning to go global? And if it needs to go global, what are the changes that Edifice needs to bring in?
So our intent was at some point in time during those heady days between 2002 to 2007 to establish, to very fashionable, and some of our peers have done it, to establish offices in the Middle East. And we had also gone to Dubai, enjoyed our time there, came back, was flooded with projects here, dropped the idea. Second time around, thought of doing it, again flooded with projects, dropped the idea. We did some projects for our clients outside of India. So we did some facilities for Infosys in China and UK. We also did some couple of large architectural projects for a group, a World Trade Center at Nigeria. And we found that I think staying in India, because our profession is such that we need to have tight control over things. Within India itself, we don't have control. What are we going to have a control outside of India? So unless you have the bandwidth, don't take it on. So it's a lesson that we learned early on in life. If you can try to grab an inch, don't try to grab a foot. So there is enough work out here. Stay focused and do it well.
But Ravi, don't you think we'll get better fees there? You know, we're dropping fees here.
So Swapnil, the other side of grass is always greener. I'd rather look at a better fee in Bangalore and Chennai than Mumbai or otherwise.
There's another question from...
And I start missing Indian food. Very, my vegetarian Indian food I start missing. So I'd rather stick to India.
So Sanjay Kunaria is asked a question. What is the current challenge? Because every time there is something or the other challenge that every organization faces. What is the current challenge that Edifice is facing in the business right now?
No, of course, stoppage of work, revenue dips, taking care of my people during my question and answer, whom I call the ambassadors for Edifice. We have a huge responsibility on hand, not just within Edifice, but outside. I think as a society, we need to see what, as architects, of course, many architects are giving remedies which are temporary in nature. I think we have to look at a broader picture as to how can we minimize this damage that we are creating to the environment. Every time when we are digging foundation for a building, ensure that we have planted 10 fast-growing trees, make it mandatory for Miyawaki forests to come everywhere. I think we need to give back to the environment. So the current challenge is, instead of looking at a short-term solution of doing some furniture change and introducing these screens and imposing hygiene and social distancing, look at the broader picture. What can we do to the environment? How can we make the world safer and greener to live in? I think those are your bigger challenges. Current challenges is to tide over this crisis. Revenue is going to be difficult. Economy is down to zero and maybe go negative. We need to survive the next 6 months to 12 months. I'm optimistic that we will do. We need to keep our head above water. Post that, I have always maintained this at every other event as well. I'm an eternal optimist. 36 runs needed in the last 6 balls, and I'll still say India will win. So 6 months, 1 year down the line, I think we are going to see a lot of business come our way. India is poised for growth, and we will see 2021, 22, 23 as great years for all architects who value the profession.
One question which always bothers me, which I'm going to ask you, is you've seen this PE coming in and going out, and world across architectural firms have been bought over, sold out. Doesn't happen in India. Why is it that architectural firm is not PE's favorite, whereas IPCs are bought and sold every day in and day out?
Didn't you hear about the RSP deal? RSP deal, did you hear about it, right? RSP deal happened in 2007. So this in the period between 2005 to 2008, there were several firms which were keen on investing in architectural practices. Unfortunately, the big collapse happened, and therefore, as I mentioned to you earlier, also it is cyclical. The minute you find that there is a demand for professionals, there is a demand in real estate, there is a demand in infrastructure, our value also goes up. And the minute our value goes up, there will be immediately a movement of the PE funds, and even the Council of Architects prevents non-architects to invest in an architectural company. But you will find strategic buyouts happening. Unfortunately, just as when we were probably one among 2 or 3 nations that were growing in terms of GDP, this corona had to happen. But you will see this movement again in 2022 to 2023, 2023, where you will find funds interested in architectural firms. Now is not the right time, of course. That's the reason they're not following you.
So do you see consolidation, of architectural firms coming
Yes, yes.
together? And
Of course.
maybe Edifice would just merge itself with somebody or acquire some small firm or talent. Do you see that thing happening?
Over time, maybe, because we unfortunately, we are one of those firms who believed in organic growth, not inorganic growth. One question, if you remember, you asked me, how did I manage to set up branches in all these cities? We believed in sitting on the galla ourselves, right? In a Udupi restaurant, you have the owner sitting at the galla, right? So we have one of us sitting in each of these gallas, because that's how, it's a very personalized service you're offering. So we've always believed in organic growth. We've always shied away from senior lateral shifts from other organizations into Edifice, because there's a huge learning of values which happens in your formative years. But if there are like-minded firms, we don't mind collaborating, and we may see mergers and acquisitions maybe post 2025. Already we are collaborating with firms like Studio Mumbai on projects, and Abhikram, that is late Nimish Patel's firm, we collaborated on 2 competitions. Studio Mumbai, Bijoy Jain, we have collaborated on a couple of projects, and we've enjoyed it thoroughly. In fact, I've collaborated with international firms also on projects, but I think more and more Indian firms should collaborate and work together on larger projects. But there has to be synchronization of values and ideas. It can happen, which will further lead on to a solid merger. See, always test waters on projects first, and then think of a merger or an acquisition.
There is another interesting question which always intrigued me was,
Right.
There was a year in 1955 when Firoz Kudianwala, YJ Patki, possibly I think another Patki of Patki Dadarkar, all these dons came out. And it was again in 87 when another, tide came out, which was you, Sanjay Puri, Yatin Patel of DSP, Sandeep Shikre, and all this. And after that, we have not seen that kind of a tide happening. Is it that you were playing lucky, or there was something which was there in 87 and 1955?
No. I think it's got to do a lot with the idea of enterprise, the idea of the ability to take risks. Our education system, too many colleges coming out. During my time, when I did architecture between 82 to 87, there were 27 colleges in the country. Today, there are 27 in Mumbai, Navi Mumbai alone. MMR region, there may be 27 colleges. So what you have done is, you have the number of architects which are graduating, one too many, and therefore the quality is suffering, and therefore you have I would say, deliberately devalued this profession to such an extent that you're one among many, right? So there is always a fear in your mind whether I should start something on my own, or should I work with a firm for 5 years. If I were to be a 2005 graduate, what is taught to me, what is environmentally sound, is I work for 5 years in a firm, maybe 10 years in a firm, then I can think of start something on our own. Whereas in those days, for us, it was anathema for me to work under someone. Oh God, no, I have to be on my own. Yeah, so I think times have changed. The entrepreneurial spirit in our profession is kind of, I think, lowered. Otherwise, I would strongly suggest anybody, I told you, right, anybody who spends 5 years or 6 years in Edifice doing architectural projects, we will train him or her to start something on their own.
Or is it that all 200 people you have acquired and kept them with you, so nobody's starting on their own?
No. I like that other question of yours, right? It took almost 100 years for an alumni association.
Yeah. So this is one thing, I think the audience was fantastic. I've been seeing Nilesh Gandhi, even Nitin Kilawala sir was here, and he did comment about you going great, and architecture is just not architecture, but architecture practice is more than just architecture.
That's true.
So it's almost 100 years that it took for Alumni Association to be formed. It was that batch of 1965, Naresh Shah, Mahesh Desai, and all this, Uday Atwankar. The senior guys came together over a drink on a terrace and they formed an alumni association. You have held alumni association and college in past by doing a lot of things for college. Now I want to hear something from you. What is that initiative that you think you would take along with alumni association and lead alumni to help the alma mater?
So I think the first help that we all need to render is, I think I heard some time back, I don't remember who it was, but we can all get sponsors, we can all do whatever it takes to build the infrastructure in JJ, which is critical nowadays. And they're welcoming more and more people to come forward and help build the infrastructure, which is not in very good shape. I think that's the first thing that we need to do. But the bigger deed that we should all be doing is finding time to go and teach. I think it's imperative that I did it last year, and I think Mustansir called me and said that why don't I come, at least for the final year batch who are giving their thesis, to help them with their thesis topic. And so me, and then there was a senior of mine, Abhay Kulkarni, who also came along, and we found time to go and spend time with the students. A great learning for us as well. So what I would really plead is, while the college needs funds for developing the infrastructure, and you could do it with your own resources, with your own people. Sanjay and me, we did up 2 lecture halls in our college. Similarly, there are many areas where intervention is needed, and we could do judicious improvement. I don't want to improve. I don't want to do so much that the character is lost. I think the character, if you go to the campus even today, it feels like going back in the 1980s, and that's the charm in JJ. I took my 2 daughters there and showed them the places where we learned and unlearned, and the canteen and the arches and the old building and the new building, the dark room. I don't know how many of you all knew that there was a dark room existing in our college. So a lot of things need intervention, and I would beg of you, and now that we've got a great set of people who are heading now, Hiten and you and Paresh and plenty of people who are now devoting time for this alumni association. I think it's time that we all, not taking support from the vendors, I think individually we'll need to spare some time, be volunteers, share some of your wealth in developing the infrastructure of our college. What it needs most is faculty, teachers, and if we can all get together and devote time for the 4th year and 5th year students, we'll be doing a lot of justice to the education. Because what resumes you're getting and quality of work that you're getting, not just from JJ but from other colleges, is also quite low in value, and we need to up it up.
So you are saying that you would take the initiative, one on the campus and second on the education,
right,
as a part of the alumni. So we would really love to individually meet you and take it up post-COVID, and let's do something together. I think we had a fantastic audience. I can see Ramji speaking here. I can see Nilesh Gandhi here. Many of ex-Edifice are out here, and many of your classmates are also telling you hi out here. So, right. Ravi, lovely having you. I think we are off the time, and we would look forward to have you at the workshop. I'm sure at the workshop you still feel like a student. So Ravi is inviting all of us over for a drink, or in the sense tea, at the workshop at JJ as soon as the lockdown opens.
Sure.
I'm giving that commitment on behalf of you.
Yeah, love to meet all of you guys.
So lovely having you. Thank you very much. Thank you, AFC. Thank you, iDAC, and thank you, the entire audience and the AAJJA team.
Thank
Lovely
you.
audience. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thank
Hope
you.
everybody had a good time.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Architect Ravi Sarangan, for walking us down your path of success and the colossal knowledge shared this evening. It's an absolute honor to hear of it firsthand from you. And thank you so much, Architect Swapnil Sawant, for bringing out the best of it. A special thanks to our sponsor for this episode, AFC Furniture Solutions. And we thank our lovely audience that have shown support and tuned in this evening. Should you all have any further queries, do connect with Team iDAC. All your pending questions will be answered by our industry stalwarts on www.askidac.com. Sign up now, stay safe, and gear up for the new normal.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.